So Chris Roberts actually went on record saying Squadron 42 will stand toe-to-toe with GTA 6 in 2026. Bold doesn't even begin to cover it. While everyone's obsessing over Ship Showdown and the Polaris decimating everything in its path, no surprise there, something much deeper is unfolding behind the curtain. Been tracking this project since the original Kickstarter, and I've never seen the development pieces align quite like they are right now. The monthly patches, the CitizenCon prep, the sudden Squadron 42 positioning. It's not random. There's a calculated strategy here that completely reshapes where this project is headed. Think back to when you first backed. That specific moment when you clicked Confirm Purchase. Maybe it was 2013, maybe 2018. Remember what you thought you were getting? A space sim with multiplayer, maybe some trading, a campaign. Then the waiting started. Years passing, roadmaps changing, features sliding, whole systems vanishing into the TBD void. But something fundamental shifted this year, hasn't it? Last year's free fly events were complete server meltdowns, 30,000 errors every 15 minutes, ships despawning mid-flight, cargo disappearing. This latest free fly, shockingly stable. Multiple players reporting they didn't even notice performance impacts. As one commenter put it, I logged into play after a long-ish hiatus and didn't even realize it was free fly. I was floored at the performance difference between this free fly event and every single previous one. These monthly patches aren't just shuffling deck chairs anymore. They're building actual functioning systems that connect to each other. The year of playability is finally delivering what that phrase implies. A game you can actually play for hours without something catastrophic happening. And that changes everything about the project's trajectory. 3 massive development streams are converging right now, creating the perfect storm for CitizenCon in October. First, the Regen Crisis storyline concludes with 4.3.1, not just another mission, but the finale of the first properly structured narrative arc in the persistent universe. Second, CitizenCon looms just 6 weeks away, with CIG deliberately holding back Inside Star Citizen episodes to redirect those resources elsewhere. And third, Chris Roberts suddenly positions Squadron 42 as a direct competitor to one of the most anticipated games of the decade. None of this is coincidence. It's calculated timing. The year of playability phrase they've been pushing is finally delivering meaningful results. Server performance has improved dramatically. Just look at the stability during the Free Fly event. AI behavior in the Onyx facilities shows they're finally implementing the advanced systems they've talked about for years. Even the medical gameplay is expanding with the Apollo, giving those mechanics actual purpose beyond the novelty factor. Most backers still think these monthly patches are just incremental bug fixes. They're missing the bigger picture. Each one is adding another system that connects to everything else. Cargo refactoring connects to physical inventory, connects to persistence, connects to ship storage. It's all building towards something much more cohesive. CIG's silence about certain features speaks volumes. Engineering gameplay was supposedly weeks away, then suddenly disappeared from discussion. Server meshing updates became vague. Pyro details dried up despite it supposedly being right around the corner. This deliberate information control suggests they're saving major announcements for CitizenCon. Announcements that will reframe the entire project timeline. Here's what nobody's talking about with Ship Showdown. It's not just some glorified popularity contest. It's CIG's most sophisticated market research tool. The Polaris crushing the competition tells them exactly where to focus development resources and which gameplay loops players are most invested in. Look at the actual numbers. During Ship Showdown, CIG sold between 1,200 and 2,400 ITs. That's roughly 1.2 to 2.4 million from a single concept ship, a vessel that won't be flyable for potentially years. People aren't throwing that kind of money at pretty JPEGs anymore. They're buying into a specific vision of gameplay. The domination of capital ships in this contest reveals something crucial about the player base's expectations. Despite Star Citizen being primarily played solo right now, players are overwhelmingly voting for and purchasing multi-crew vessels. They're not buying what the game currently is, they're buying what they believe it will become. This directly contradicts the Star Citizen is just a solo experience with optional multiplayer narrative that's persisted for years. The data shows players want coordinated fleet actions, specialized crew roles, and interdependent gameplay. They want to stand on a bridge with friends, each person handling a different station, succeeding or failing together. The Mercury Star Runner's absence from the brackets is particularly telling. Once the darling of the community, it's been supplanted by vessels that enable more diverse gameplay styles. Players aren't just looking for jack-of-all-trades ships anymore. They're investing in specialized roles within larger operations. You're probably sitting there with your trusty Avenger Titan or Cutlass Black, watching these massive capital ships dominate the conversation, wondering if you're getting left behind. That concern is all over Spectrum, threads hundreds of posts deep, with solo players feeling forgotten, as development seems to focus on these massive multi-crew experiences. That frustration makes perfect sense. You've spent hours mastering flight models, customizing loadouts, optimizing power distributions, only to watch the spotlight shift to ships you can't possibly operate alone. It feels like the game is moving away from you. But here's what those discussions miss. These capital ships are completely useless without smaller vessels supporting them. A Polaris without fighter escort is just a big, slow target. An Idris without skilled crew is just an empty shell. As one commenter noted about No Man's Sky versus Star Citizen, they are different games. It's good for us space game players to have options, because up until this last decade, we really haven't had much of anything. The future of Star Citizen isn't about solo players versus capital ships. It's about how they work together. That skilled Gladius pilot who can keep enemies off a hammerhead's back becomes the most valuable person in the fleet. The expert engineer who can squeeze extra performance from components makes the difference between victory and defeat. Your skills in those smaller ships will be more valuable, not less, as these larger vessels come online. The ecosystem needs all parts functioning together. The Onyx facility's science wing opening with 4.3.1 isn't just another location. It's a testing ground for proper boss encounters in the persistent universe. The technical foundation for these kinds of experiences directly feeds into both Star Citizen and Squadron 42. If you've run those corridors multiple times, you've probably noticed the AI behaves differently than anywhere else in the game. During PTU sessions, players reported enemies actually using cover effectively, flanking player positions and coordinating with each other. That's not just standard NPC behavior. That's testing advanced combat AI that will be crucial for Squadron 42's combat scenarios. The lore connections go much deeper than most players realize. That captured Van Duel blade, displayed in the laboratory, connects directly to the Ibrahim spheres and regeneration technology. The specific frequency those spheres emit, that distinctive blue-green glow, anyone who studied the deeper lore knows exactly what that suggests. As one Reddit commenter speculated, I really want to see some sort of higher-tier Merc gameplay, geared around fending off Van Duel incursions that happen every so often server-wise. Another said, a zombie Van Duel would be crazy cool. These aren't just random guesses. They're based on the narrative breadcrumbs CIG has been carefully placing throughout the Regen Crisis storyline. But perhaps most significantly, these facilities are testing cooperative gameplay zones, areas where CIG can experiment with different approaches to the PvP/PvE balance that's divided the community for years. The controversial green zones in space stations might eventually evolve into more nuanced cooperative areas, where players can choose how they want to engage with content without being forced into unwanted PvP. As one commenter noted, PvP isn't actually a bug or anything, but finding the right balance between player freedom and protecting different gameplay styles remains one of Star Citizen's biggest design challenges. These facilities are the laboratory where those solutions are being tested. Last Free Fly event, you're showing a friend around in your constellation Phoenix, that ship you spent weeks earning in-game, the one with the ridiculous leather interior, the full bar stocked with actual bottles, the hot tub that somehow functions in zero gravity. This isn't just a game, you're explaining, trying to justify the hundreds of hours you've invested. It's an actual universe. You're giving them the grand tour, showing off how each component physically exists in the ship, how the power plant connects to the shield generators, how the quantum drive spools up, and then suddenly you both glitch straight through the floor, just gone, floating through the void. Your friend's character locked in that absurd T-pose, arms outstretched like they're being crucified by the game engine itself. 3 years ago, this would have been the moment they uninstalled. The confirmation of every negative YouTube video about the project. The "I told you so" moment for every skeptic. But something was different this time. Instead of the usual stream of profanity, the frustrated Alt F4, the "I'm done with this broken mess" speech, you both just laughed. Actually laughed. Because for once, it felt like the exception rather than the rule. You relogged, got back in, and, against all historical precedent, finished the entire mission without another issue. Your friend even asked about package options afterward. That moment hits differently when you remember the days when landing at Lorville meant a 50-50 chance of falling through the planet. When cargo runs meant potentially losing everything to a random 30,000. When elevators were more deadly than any NPC enemy. As one player commented, "When was the last time you had to explain to a new player why the elevators don't work? Or why their ship suddenly exploded on the landing pad?" Those fundamental improvements aren't accidents. They represent a dramatic shift in development priorities. CitizenCon this year will not follow any pattern we've seen before. The drought of Inside Star Citizen episodes isn't a summer break. Those production resources, studio time, and developer hours have been redirected toward crafting what we'll see on October 11th. The historical pattern is clear. Major technology showcases typically appear at these presentations roughly 6 to 9 months before actual implementation. Server meshing, planetary tech v4, physics grid systems, all were demonstrated long before they appeared in playable builds. If this pattern holds, what we see at CitizenCon will likely arrive in mid-2025, aligning perfectly with their broader timeline hints. The monthly reports contain critical breadcrumbs most players overlook. Recent reports include multiple references to Nyx system development in unexpected sections, suggesting it's much further along than officially acknowledged. There are subtle mentions of assets and mechanics that only make sense in a multi-system context. That joke about engineering gameplay falling behind the sofa during the podcast wasn't just casual banter. Features don't simply vanish from discussion because they're delayed. Sometimes they disappear because they're being saved for maximum impact. Engineering isn't some minor feature they've deprioritized. It's a fundamental system that touches everything from power management to component repair to damage control during combat. As one commenter noted, "I hope to see engineering and crafting and trading. I expect to see SQ42 delayed again, 1.0 changing again, item loss and permanence changes. The community expects another delay, but the evidence suggests CIG might finally be ready to commit to concrete timelines. The Nyx system specifically has generated cautious optimism, with one player stating, 'I am hoping for Nyx, but I am not expecting it. If it does appear, it will likely follow the same pattern as Pyro. First in a limited preview playground for selected players, before wider release.' The community's reaction to Chris Roberts comparing Squadron 42 to GTA 6 has been fascinatingly divided. Some see it as dangerous overconfidence. Others as the bold vision that got Star Citizen funded in the first place. One crucial point many have overlooked: GTA 6 won't be on PC at launch, so outside of publicity and exposure, SQ42 shouldn't really have much competition on the PC side of things. This gives Squadron 42 a potential opening in the PC market that might make Roberts' comparison less outlandish than it initially appears. The debate between No Man's Sky and Star Citizen reveals how players position these games in relation to each other. As one commenter eloquently put it, comparing NMS to SC is comparing apples to oranges. They are both space games, but NMS is a primarily single-player focused game that is about exploring and base building. NMS is simple and chill, and it doesn't require any more money than the initial purchase. NMS and SC can coexist happily because they are different games. This perspective recognizes that different space games serve different purposes. No Man's Sky offers accessible exploration and base building, while Star Citizen aims for deeper simulation and interconnected systems. The comparison isn't about competition, but complementary experiences. The CitizenCon fever phenomenon, where expectations soar before the event only to crash afterward, feels different this year. The monthly patches have built credibility by consistently improving stability and performance. The year of playability has actually delivered playability, unlike previous marketing slogans that promised more than they delivered. As one player noted about the recent Free Fly, "I logged into play after a longish hiatus and didn't even realize it was Free Fly. I was floored at the performance difference between this Free Fly event and every single previous one." These tangible improvements have built a foundation of trust that makes CitizenCon's promises more credible this year. Here's exactly what you should be doing to prepare for what's coming next in Star Citizen. First, contrary to what you might expect, hold on to your store credit if you've been eyeing the Polaris or other capital ships. CIG's recent commitment to making ships available in-game means the Asgard, MTC, Guardian MX, and potentially even the Idris P should be purchasable with a UEC within the next 3 to 4 months. Why spend hundreds of real dollars when you might be able to earn these ships through gameplay? As one player observed about the Idris, they should try and sell them in-game. Because, again, alpha, if there are issues, they can change it. CIG could always adjust availability or pricing if too many capital ships disrupt gameplay balance. However, some in the community disagree with this approach. They need to wait until we have Rep 2.0 before adding capital ships to the in-game shops. It needs to require a max rep with either lawful or criminal orgs. This suggestion would gate these powerful ships behind significant gameplay investment, rather than just currency. Second, finish those Regen Crisis missions before 4.3.1 drops. CIG's narrative content tends to evolve or disappear entirely as story arcs conclude. Remember how Jumptown 1.0 vanished completely? How the first Xenothreat incursion had elements never seen in later iterations? The same will likely happen with the Onyx facilities once their storyline concludes.
Third, document everything about the current Onyx facilities. Screenshots, videos, all of it. These story-focused locations typically transform dramatically after their narratives conclude. Remember how Levski changed? How Delamar moved entirely? How Port Olisar simply disappeared? Future players will search for videos of the original Onyx facilities, just like we now look at footage of the original Area 18. Fourth, start building your network now. Join Discord groups, respond to server-wide calls for gunners and engineers, find organizations that match your playstyle. The game is clearly moving toward more team-focused content, and when that science wing opens, you'll want trusted people watching your back. Solo players will likely struggle with whatever awaits in there, based on the difficulty progression we've seen in previous wings. What's your honest take on Chris Roberts positioning Squadron 42 against GTA 6? Is this the bold vision that got Star Citizen funded in the first place, or has ambition finally outstripped reality? After all these years of delays, could it actually hit a 2026 release window when we've seen so many dates silently vanish from roadmaps? Your perspective matters here, especially if you've been around since those early days when the vision was much simpler. Has the expanded scope been worth the extended development time? Has the project improved through these iterations, or just become increasingly unfocused? This isn't just theoretical. The answers will shape your gameplay experience for years to come. If this breakdown helped clarify where things are heading, hitting that like button genuinely helps surface this kind of analysis to more players who might benefit from it. When 4.3.1 drops and that science wing finally opens, our org will be running dedicated exploration teams from day one, properly equipped with security, medical support, and data specialists to document everything we find. With each monthly patch, this project inches closer to the vision that seemed impossibly distant for so many years. The systems that once appeared disconnected are finally forming a coherent whole. Medical gameplay connects to physical damage, connects to player status effects, connects to ship systems. The key to understanding Star Citizen's development has always been reading between the lines, seeing the connections that aren't explicitly highlighted in announcements or roadmaps. When CitizenCon begins on October 11th, watch for those seemingly minor features that represent major back-end changes. Listen for casual mentions of systems that will fundamentally alter how we interact with this universe. Look for those connections between seemingly unrelated announcements that reveal the bigger picture.
After all these years of patience, of defending this project to skeptical friends, of explaining it's an alpha more times than you can count, we might actually be on the verge of seeing the core vision come together. The universe is expanding in ways many players haven't even considered. The road to 1.0 finally has visible milestones. And something tells me CitizenCon will finally give us the map for the journey ahead.